Welcome to the Endgame. Today, we're going to talk about Wildstar,
Uh-oh, now your enemies are really in their pants.
an MMO that was developed by Carbine Studios and published by NCSoft in 2014. Carbine originally advertised Wildstar as a WoW killer, which made sense since most of the development team originated from Blizzard. The game, however, ended up falling a bit flat due to a bad launch and a complete lack of pre-endgame content, so a lot of players just didn't bother. The game has a very stylized art style with a sci-fi theme and lets you choose between tab targeting and action combat. The game is also open to add-ons, with each of the UI elements being an add-on, making it easy to customize anything you'd like. Someone even managed to script in a soccer game and an RPG map using the add-on feature. This game has one of the best housing systems I have seen in MMOs to date. Instead of decorating your house, you're given a plot of land to do anything you want with. I've seen people build entire cities, skate parks, and haunted houses. You can really make whatever you want with this housing system, which is great for role players that like to hold events. In 2014, Wildstar went free to play and released a bunch of new updates hoping to bring in new players, and the game is now available on Steam. The combat in Wildstar is a step above a lot of other MMOs in my opinion. The game features a telegraph combat system that's a bit more engaging than the traditional tab targeting system without actually taking out tab targeting entirely. It's a simple system really. Red is bad, green is good, and purple is a buff. Anything that does damage or healing over time will have a striped telegraph, and later on you'll get interruption abilities. Whenever an enemy casts a telegraph of any kind, you can use an interrupt ability to cause a moment of opportunity which will stun or knock down the enemy and make him vulnerable for a short period of time, causing him to take extra damage from you and your team. Bosses and elite enemies, however, will usually have interrupt armor that has to be broken before they can be CC'd, meaning you have to interrupt them multiple times during the telegraph for it to take effect, and the armor regenerates once the telegraph is done. But personally, I think that normal enemies could do with a little bit more armor and a few more telegraph abilities, to be honest. There isn't really any challenge outside of bosses because your interrupt abilities have a 20-second cooldown. So by the time the enemy uses another telegraph, you can just interrupt it again. But why? I want to have to dodge and make choices even when I'm only questing. I want interrupting an enemy to feel like something special instead of just, oh, a telegraph, time to interrupt. Now you're probably asking yourself, well, what about character customization then? The two main stats you'll have to worry about are support and assault. See, you have three different skill trees for your class. You have assault, support, and utility. Assault is your damage, support is healing or tanking, and utility is your crowd control. When you get a piece of gear, it'll either be assault or support. But that gear then has rune slots, where you can apply runes that give you the usual bonuses to things you'd expect, like critical hit rating, multi-hit rating, armor, health, etc. But here's where it gets interesting. You can craft fusion runes, which are runes that can only be used with specific equipment types, and give you special effects that fundamentally change your build, such as a rune that grants 5% armor whenever your heals crit, or a rune that grants extra multi-hit rating whenever you crit, and extra crit rating whenever you get a multi-hit. Runes are the backbone of your gear, and they make or break a build. Other than runes, however, you'll have AMP points. AMP points are allocated in one of 6 specializations and mainly give passive buffs. However, each class also gets 3 abilities that are unlocked using AMP points, one for each skill type. For example, my Stalker's utility AMP ability is Bloodthirst, which increases my lifesteal by 20% for 4 seconds and increases the damage my entire team deals by 8%. But you can also upgrade skills using ability points, and every skill has bonus effects at levels 4 and 8. Now as for crafting, there is really no point. The crafting system's fun and all, but it's more work than it's worth. By the time you get to endgame, you'll be able to purchase all the gear you need to start raiding from merchants with a currency called glory, which you get from dungeons. And then once you start raiding, you'll get coins you use to redeem even better gear. There's never any incentive to craft gear, since as you progress, you'll be constantly getting better and more powerful gear. Now, when you create your character, you'll get to choose between 4 paths, each with its own missions and gameplay style. The main draw of these, however, is the abilities you'll get for leveling up the paths. For example, the Scientist gets Holographic Distraction, Summon Group, and a portal to the capital city. The Explorer gets Safe Fall, so less fall damage, jetpack jump, and translocate beacon, which saves your location and teleports you back to it whenever you choose. Soldier gets back into the fray, which is a heal, bailout, and combat supply drop. And lastly, you have the Settler, which has a healing campfire and can summon a mailbox, a vendor bot, and a crafting station. Lastly, the housing system. This game has one of the best housing systems I have ever seen. Instead of giving you a house where you can plop down furniture occasionally for no reason, this game gives you an entire plot of land that you can do anything you want with. You can change the sky, the ground, and the music. You can build a sprawling city with shops and citizens, or a winter wonderland covered in Christmas decorations. You can build your dream home. You can build a mansion. You do whatever you want to do. And once you've actually built your base, you can invite people over and hold events, or just visit other people's houses. Some people have even managed to script minigames for their houses. Unfortunately, scripting your plot is very difficult because it's not technically officially supported, and has to be done through add-ons. But let me tell you, if plot scripting was officially supported, I would probably play this game just to play the minigames that people would create. Also, regarding the item shop, you can buy almost anything using Omnibucks, which is a currency that occasionally drops when you kill enemies. If you're a subscriber, you get 3 Omnibucks instead of 1, however, but keep in mind that there's a weekly softly cap, so you can't just accumulate as much as you want just because you're subscribed. Once you hit that soft cap, drops slow down drastically. The game features 2 opposing factions, the Exile.
I'm just so excited! I think I might wet my britches. Uh-oh.
And the Dominion.
Hello there. It appears that it has fallen to me to tell you about the Dominion.
The Dominion are essentially the Galactic Empire. They go around conquering and destroying planets and killing anyone who opposes them. The Exile, on the other hand, are people who've been driven out of their homes by the Dominion.
Cause trouble. If they ain't starting a war on your planet, then they're probably blockading it with their starships.
You play on the world of Nexus, a planet that was found by the Exile in hopes of building a new home to escape the Dominion dictatorship and hopefully fight back. Unfortunately for the Exile, the Dominion arrived on Nexus in an attempt to take control away from the Exile. Although Nexus seemed like the perfect planet at first, you soon realize that there's more to it than meets the eye. You soon find out that the planet was populated by a highly intelligent race called the Elden.
The Elden abandoned me here long ago.
However, the Elden seemingly disappeared, leaving all of their technology and massive structures behind. What happened to the Elden? Who is the caretaker? And what is Project Nexus?
Guess what? You're gonna find out, Cupcake.
That is the story behind Wildstar. Considering the fact that the original development team came directly from WoW, it's no surprise that this game is very heavily story-driven with an insane amount of lore. Although a lot of the side quests can be fairly boring, the world and story quests can be a lot of fun, especially if you're into the story. The game is always ready and willing to throw more lore into your face if that's what you want. The game even gives you things called expeditions and adventures. Expeditions are 1 to 5 player dungeons that can easily be soloed as soon as you unlock them. Each one has its own little self-contained story to play through. I personally think that these expeditions are a lot of fun, like the Gauntlet expedition for example, where you end up on a game show and you have to fight for your life to try and escape. Adventures, however, are an entirely different beast. They're 5-player choose-your-own-adventure dungeons. These dungeons have huge maps in which your party will occasionally have to make decisions on where to go next, and more importantly, what to do next. As you can imagine, these also have their own self-contained stories to tell. I'd easily say that the story and lore and overall style of the game is its strongest aspect, at least for me. There's just something about the world, the story, the art style that just clicks with me, you know? The characters are vibrant and interesting, and if you're into the whole sci-fi western thing, you're gonna absolutely love this. If the story is the strongest aspect of the game, the leveling is easily the weakest. Leveling doesn't take too long. I mean, if you know what you're doing and you're being efficient about it, you could probably get to max level in 25 to 30 hours. I mean, it took me 40 hours and I had no idea what I was doing. The problem is that it's kinda meh. So much work was put into the environment, the characters, the story, and dungeon content, and it just feels like very little effort was actually put into the leveling side quests. Yes, the actual world story quests are fun and unique, but all your other missions are going to be kill X amount of enemies, collect X amount of an item, or interact with object Y. But it's just such a shame, honestly. It's a shame that such a unique game has such generic quests. I expected so much more from this game. I don't want to kill 20 enemies, come back, and get a quest to kill 20 more. I want to go on an adventure. I want to be immersed in this world, and I shouldn't have to queue up for a dungeon for that. This is one of the main reasons why a lot of people didn't want to play the game, and I get it. It's a pretty big flaw in an otherwise amazing game. But not all quests are like this. This is mainly the side quests, which are called task quests in the game. Your actual story and world missions, they're a lot of fun. And honestly, I don't think there's very much else to say about the leveling. So first of all, due to the game's low player count, there's no way you're gonna get in a PvP match before you're level 50. There just aren't enough low-level players interested in PvP. Second of all, one of the most interesting PvP modes, called War Plots, is impossible to queue for outside of special days and events. War Plots is a 30 versus 30 match, and the community and guilds usually have special days where they play War Plots. So it's no surprise that I didn't get to try it out. Because of this, I'm not going to try explaining War Plots since I didn't play it. Instead, I'll just have a link in the description for the War Plots trailer that you can check out. The battlegrounds, however, are 10 versus 10 matches, and once I hit 50, I had no trouble getting into matches. The game mode changes depending on the map, and the two maps that I got to play are Walatiki Temple, a capture the flag style map, and Hall of the Bloodsworn, a point capture style map. Overall, the PvP isn't anything too amazing. It's obvious that War Plots was supposed to be the true PvP mode, but this doesn't seem like the kind of game that attracts too many PvP-focused people and guilds. This game is so focused on its story, dungeons, and raids that there's no reason for PvP players to join, and I totally get it. There's a lot of way better MMOs out there if all you want is PvP. Congrats! You've made it to level 50! You're probably wondering what to do now, huh? Well, I'll tell you. First of all, you unlock veteran versions of all your expeditions, adventures, and dungeons. Now, don't worry, these aren't just harder versions of the same dungeons and maps. This isn't some artificial difficulty scale. Bosses actually get new mechanics. So even though it's the same dungeon, the boss fight itself is very different. Doing these dungeons will get you glory points that you can use at a gear vendor to buy the gear you'll need to start raiding. To buy this gear, however, you'll need a bronze rating or better on all of the veteran dungeons. You'll also unlock the ability to get contracts. Contracts are separated into tier 1, 2, and 3. Completing these contracts will earn you points towards rewards like gear, pets, costumes, and the like. These contracts will usually be things like defeating a world boss or finishing dungeons. Speaking of which, once you reach level 50, all veteran dungeons, expeditions, world bosses, etc. will spawn a chest that you can open with a special key that you buy from the item shop. You can get this key for 40 Omnibucks, and opening up the chest will give you a piece of item level 100 armor, which is amazing for new players. And it'll get you started on raiding quickly so you can start working towards your item level 130 raid gear. You'll also get access to the world story dungeons, which are fun little soloable lore-filled dungeons, and the Arctera map, which has constant dynamic events going on. All in all, getting to level 50 is basically a difficulty switch. That's when the real challenge starts, and when you start working towards your runes and gear, as well as maxing out your AMP and ability points by purchasing them from vendors. You'll still gain experience, however, but now your experience will be turned into Elder Gems, which you can use to buy cosmetics from the Elder Gem merchant. I honestly love this game. Yes, it has its flaws, but what doesn't? The housing system is incredible. The dungeons and adventures are a lot of fun. The story's interesting, the art style looks awesome. It just needs a bigger community. The game isn't dead, but it is definitely dying, which is a shame considering how much fun this game is. It's easy to say, I don't want to play that, it's dying. Or, it's fun, but I'm not playing a dying game. But that's the problem.
They just need a healthy dose of Dominion galactic diplomacy.
Have I made myself clear? Good.
If everyone keeps thinking like that, this game really will die. I definitely think it's worth taking a few friends and giving the game a shot. It's by no means perfect, but I definitely think it deserves a lot more players than it actually has. This is probably the first game in this series so far that I'm going to miss playing. I hope this was helpful to you. A link to the channel's Discord will be in the description, so make sure to check it out if you want. If you like this video, consider subscribing for new videos every week. Thank you for watching, and happy leveling.